62. For God alone, my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. He is alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall never be shaken. How long will you assail a person? Will you batter your victim, all of you, as you would a leaning wall, a tottering fence? Their only plan is to bring a person of prominence. They take pleasure in falsehood. They bless with their mouths, but inwardly they curse. For God alone, my soul waits in silence. For my hope is from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. On God rests my deliverance and my honor, my mighty rock. My refuge is in God. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. Those of low estate are but a breath. Those of high estate are a delusion. In the balances, they go up and down. They are together lighter than a breath. Put no confidence in extortion and set no vain hopes on robbery. If riches increase, do not set your heart on them. Once God has spoken, twice I have heard this, that power belongs to God and steadfast love belongs to you, O Lord, for you repay all according to their work. So when I was a young man sitting in the pews at First Pres, I think one of my favorite things was hearing the pastor, whether that was Josh and Laura or Randy Kirby or Jim Duncan, like hearing them say something super classic, like when preparing for this lesson, right? They would be walking in the woods or on a trip with their family. And I loved hearing that, like as a young dude, hearing the words of preparation, like what that looked like. So usually something so trivial from the week of their week, right, would turn into like the crux of their message, which I thought was pretty cool. So I wanted to talk to you guys about what I did this week to prepare for this Psalm 62. So I woke up early, as I typically do, and before leaving for the day, I read Psalm 62, and it led to prayer in the morning, and it led to long periods of silence, and it led to meditation. Jake, I know what you're thinking. Before you start getting the heebie-jeebies, me saying meditation, right? That's what Psalms are. They're a collection of poems and hymns that use metaphors to describe the relationship between God and man. They're meditations, they're prayers. Josh put me on to a guy named Eugene Peterson, who's like a Bible translator. He translated the Bible into like common folk term in Boston. And he has a quote that says, prayers are tools not for doing or getting, but being and becoming. Being and becoming. So with that context in mind of what the Psalms are, I'd like for us all to read it together. So if everybody will get out their piece of paper and follow along. Maybe Riley Myers will start us off.
God alone, my soul waits in silence.
Everybody together. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, everybody ready? Okay. For God alone, my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall never be shaken. How long will you assail a person? Will you batter your victim, all of you, as you would a leaning wall, a tottering fence? Their only plan is to bring down a person of prominence. They take pleasure in falsehood. They bless with their mouths, but inwardly they curse. For God alone, my soul waits in silence. For my hope is from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. On God rests my deliverance and my honor. My mighty rock, my refuge is in God. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. Those of low estate are but a breath. Those of high estate are a delusion. In the balances, they go up and down. Put no confidence in extortion. Set no vain hopes on robbery. If riches increase, do not set your heart on them. Once God has spoken, twice have heard this, that power belongs to God, and steadfast love belongs to you, O Lord. For you repay all according to your work. Cool. That was pretty cool. So I'm going to go whiteboard on us a little bit. All right. So what is Psalm 62 telling us? What does it say about who God is? What does it say about who we are, and what does it mean? How does it apply to our daily lives? So number one, God, excuse my crappy doctor handwriting. God is our, oh, this is not working. Oh yeah? Throw that one in the, no, I gotta leave that for the next guy. God is our, what is he, our refuge? Yeah, for what? For salvation and rest. So, he is our rock. He's our fortress. But what does this mean? Clearly, these are metaphors, and ones that I overlooked when I first read Psalm 62 a few weeks ago. One of my fraternity brothers, William Page, he challenged me. I talked to him about what I was reading this week, and I told him I was reading Psalm 62. He's like, okay, why don't you go ahead and read the story of Elijah? And for those who are not familiar with Elijah, I was not. Josh, probably pretty familiar with Elijah, medium. It was a really cool story. He's a living example of Psalm 62. You can find it in 1 Kings chapter 17 through 19. And so basically he was a prophet, and he went against the worshipers of the fertility god known as Baal. And when Queen Jezebel threatens to kill him, he escapes into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights where he prays for God to end his life, and God saves him. And he finds rest, and he finds salvation. I mentioned the story because he's a direct example of God providing refuge and stillness. That's what a rock is, right? This type of rest and salvation that the psalmist speaks of may not be the one you guys are thinking of, right? Like Todd Steinman's probably thinking of rest as in like, oh yeah, margaritas on the beach, baby. Let's go. No, this type of rest and is like seen in a river, like a giant rock, water pouring around it in a river. Pray for rest. So when there is chaos around us, we find refuge in God. Pray for rest. Sit in silence. For God alone, my soul waits in silence, for my hope is from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. On God rests my deliverance and my honor. My mighty rock, my refuge is in God. What a perfect timing for this psalm, right? As we head into the election season, right? I mean, it's no doubt going to get a little chaotic and crazy. And no doubt our country's going to be the same the day after the election. There's still going to be chaos, still going to be it's still going to be hectic. In my own life, I find stillness in in the craziness, especially when I'm in like a stressful surgery. I can feel something that goes wrong, or I understand that something's about to happen, and anesthesia or something is going wrong. I mean, there's things that you can't control when you're in there, and there's been times this week even where I have to kind of take a step back. You walk away. No, I'm just kidding. You don't walk away. You go get a cup of coffee. No. You call grandpa. No, I'm just kidding. Save me, please. No. I take a step back. I kind of like let my shoulders relax, kind of sit there for a sec. And as long as everything's stable, you can kind of take a deep breath, let everything kind of fade for a minute, and then find a moment of silence. And then you go back in, you're ready to go. And I find that like little moment, even though it's a couple seconds, right? Like it helps me to kind of calm my nerves and then keep on going. Because no doubt, like there's a lot of anxiety. The second stanza, okay, reads, if I can find my psalm here. How long will you assail a person? So number one, right, we're talking about God as our refuge and for salvation and rest. Okay, so number two, how long will you assail a person? Will you batter your victim, all of you, as you would a leaning wall, a tottering fence? Their only plan is to bring down a person of prominence. They take pleasure in falsehood. They blush with their mouths, but inwardly they curse. Clearly, the psalmist is upset with others during this time. He's lashing out, an attempt to hold others accountable. He's mad. And so in our own lives, like what falsehoods are we still worshiping? Who are the victims that you're battering? What mysteries of life are you trying to solve on your own? If I just had all these things figured out in my life, trust me, I will be content. Reminiscent of Josh's lesson this past summer, I think the psalmist is referring to ideologies that we worship in, modern culture, I guess, like materialism and individual achievement and power and authority, small social circles, entertainment, social media, the list goes on, right? In verse 9, those of low estate are but a breath. Those of high estate are a delusion. And the balances, they go up. Together, they're lighter than a breath. Your thoughts and feelings and actions directly translate here. These are our modern day idols, our modern day versions of Baal that Elijah, the prophet, fought against. And I'm the first to admit that I struggle with these things, with focusing on what God wants for me, right? In my own pursuit of happiness and self-worship, trying to figure out life, you can recognize that it's a sin, and it's because we're deeply flawed. God gave us the ability to internally motivate, to create, to make art, to beat Riley Myers at 18 holes of golf. It's awesome, right? What a gift. What a gift that only we as humans can experience. The dogs I see every day can't make these decisions, right? Or where to put their money in a diversified 401k. They can't do that, All this is to say these are distractions for the real work. The psalmist, so number 2 here, what falsehoods are you worshiping? Is worshiping with 2 P's? Anybody know? Yes. All right. Whew. Good thing I'm not a lawyer. The psalmist, he turns a corner here in verse 8. Trust in him at all times, O people, pour out your hearts before him. God is a refuge for us. In this context, he shifts the perspective from I to us, right? He turns to the congregation and proclaims in verse 11 and 12 the words, "Once God has spoken twice, have I heard this, that power belongs to God and steadfast love belongs to you." So don't worry, I'm not going to sit here and say how bad the things we worship in our daily lives are. There's hope, right? There's power. The power and love belong to God. All right. So power belongs to God, love belongs to you, O Lord. The good news about our distraction and the chaos that we face in our lives is that there is an answer, right? There is one who knows all, who knows all the answers to life's mysteries. For God alone, my soul waits in silence. My hope and my salvation come from him. There's rest. Yeah, there's rest in knowing that there is someone who knows it all, and it's God. So when I look back on my week of preparation for this lesson, my walk in the woods, right, to try and find the little nugget of information I'm going to kind of put you guys forward with this week, it was really the silence and prayer in the mornings that I had to myself to go inward, where I found solace, where I found grace, you know? So my challenge to you guys this week is to spend some time in solace. Pray to God for rest. Pray to God for salvation. Eugene Peterson says, when you pray, you don't ask God for things, you pray to listen. I think praying opens your heart to possibilities that you never thought possible. Certainly that's true of the brief time I've spent in prayer and silence this week. So that's all I got for you guys this morning.
All right. Very good.